All right. Well, good evening. Welcome to Tuesday Night Mastermind. What a great time for leaders to come together, to be able to learn, to grow, to be able to be at their very best in order that everyone around them is better. You know, when the leader gets better, the entire team gets better, and everyone around them gets better. And so I'm so grateful for you, for how you choose to continue to invest in yourself, invest in your future, your growth, your family, your organization, in order that you can be at your best and everyone around you is at their best as well. Well, this is week 3 of our July Mastermind, just talking about life, leadership, business, talking about these different aspects and the components of how we grow as leaders. And tonight we're going to talk about success. We're going to talk about the 3 C's to success, maybe a little bit different twist on it than you've heard before. But I really am grateful for you for how you continue to grow, continue to show up, and continue to take that next step forward. Well, before we do anything, I want us to just hear from you. I want to be able to hear from you about things that you have been able to grow in, how you have learned, how you've had some wins, how you've grown in the last week. So we never lose. Sometimes we win, sometimes we learn, but we don't lose. So tell me some things in the last week, or maybe in the last couple of weeks, of ways that you've learned something or you've just had a great victory in life. I'm going to give you a chance, so don't think I'm just going to keep
Okay,
moving
I-
on.
I'll start. I was going to give somebody else the opportunity to speak up, but I'll start. Um, so the first week, I'll start with the first week. It was basically, you know, do you have a plan to grow? And at one point, I felt like I did have a plan to grow, but I've fallen out of that plan. And getting
Mm.
back on these Tuesday calls has really kind of held me accountable in scheduling time to grow myself. So that is a win out of the last 2 weeks for me.
And Joe, I appreciate you sharing that. That's really good. It's so easy just to kind of get out of the habit of focusing and being intentional on our growth. And then when you get back in the habit of things, you go, oh man, this is valuable. And so building in some consistency for yourself and being a part of this. Good. Believe that those things always pay dividends. Somebody else, maybe something that you've learned, maybe something that you've overcome a struggle, maybe something that's been a victory for your team, your organization, your family, maybe something personally.
Here, I'll go next. One of the things I wrote down on one of the areas that I really need to improve in is learning how to delegate. There's people underneath me, and a lot of times I become a little bit of a control freak, and I go, you know what, I'm just gonna figure this out and do it myself so I know it's done right. But at the same time, I end up spending way more time and putting a bunch of resources into something that somebody else could definitely be doing. So, been working on that, figuring out how to utilize my time better so um, I can focus on the more important things instead of just trying to make it all happen myself and wearing myself out.
Man, Ryan, that is such a good lesson. It is hard. I don't know that leaders ever get to the point that they stop learning the importance of delegation. And so being able to focus on it right now, just life and your career, going, I have to get better at this. I have to know what I can train other people to do, what is important that only I can do, but what are the things that I can delegate? So it's really good, Ryan. I really appreciate you sharing that with us tonight. And that is, it's so important that we always have this mindset. I'm always learning. I'm always growing. I'm always getting better in different aspects of life. And so I just want to challenge you to every week, be prepared to share with people. Hey, here's some things that I've learned this week. Here's some things that I've just had victory in my life and in my business. And so don't be afraid to share that. When you share your victories, it gives everyone around you permission to share their victories as well. And people need to have some victories in life right now. Life's hard. It's always hard. Parenting's hard. Jobs are hard. The economy's hard. Share your victories, giving permission for other people to share their victories as well. All right, well, let's go ahead and jump into tonight. Let me ask you this question. What defines success? Man, just right there in the chat. I just want to hear from you. Type it right there in the chat. I want to be able to look at these later. For you, what defines success? And maybe even write it down on a piece of paper so that you'll be able to have it. Because your definition of success is different than anybody else's. Did you hear that? Your definition of success is going to look, sound, and feel a little bit different than other people around you. So therefore, you have to know what success looks like for you. So you know what to go after, you know what you're striving after, and you know when you get there. So what does success look like for you? You know, Paul, you may have to help me out here on here tonight. I cannot see the chat for some reason. It is super small on my screen. And so if some of those things are on there, please help me out. You know, success is this weird thing. How do you define success? How do you know what success looks like? Is it having a certain amount of money? Is it being debt free? Is it your kids moving out of the house? Maybe that's something that I'm thinking about in my life right now, that maybe my kids will eventually get to the point that we can be empty nesters. Is it having some financial freedom? Is it being able to go on the next vacation? Is it buying a car? What does success look like? And what do you want success to look like? You know, when I started thinking about this and thinking about what are my goals and what does success look like and how do I get there, I had to actually re-examine some things and re-examine my heart, re-examine my mind, and re-examine how hard and how far and what I'm willing to go to get to those goals in order that I really feel successful. I'm not going to share with you right now what my definition of success, but you need to know yours and you need to know what that looks like in your life. Here's what John Maxwell says. I wrote this down earlier. John Maxwell says, for him, success is that the people who know him the most love and respect him the most. Man, I love that definition. You know, when you get around certain people and you meet them for the first time, and there's this aspect of, man, this person's really incredible. I love being around this person. And then the longer you know them, you actually have more questions about them. The longer you get to know them, you're going, that person's not exactly who I thought they were. Man, I met with one of my life coaches today, and he's actually going to be on next week with us. We're going to have an interview. We're actually going to be set up at his house. So excited about it. For Cliff, man, he is a man who just embodies this idea of integrity, that the more you get to know him, the closer you get to him, the more you respect him, the more you love him, the more you just go, man, I need more of this in my life. And so just seeing that John Maxwell definition today, I thought it was so incredible. John Maxwell also has a personal definition. He says that I would know my purpose in life, that I would grow in maximizing my potential, and third, that I would sow seeds that benefit others. You know, it is so important for us to be able to maximize who we are. Everyone has a different ceiling, but why do we have to stop there? Why can't we get better? Why can't we do more with the goal of that we're sowing seeds that others would benefit? And that's one of my goals. That's one of a marker in my life that would be successful, that people like you are better because of what I do. So how are people getting around you getting better because of what you're doing in their life? So let's just talk about it. I'm not going to talk about the definition of success, but I want to talk about some key components that help us to reach that goal and to be successful. So 3 C's of success. You know, when you look at this and just think about those 3 C's right there, we're going to look at even the graphics of them and why they're important and what that means and how they play out. So here it is. Number 1 is consistency. Man, if you've done any of my masterminds before, you've been on the free leadership call in June, one of my big things in life is consistency always brings about results. When you do little things over time, it builds and it builds and it builds, and it pays great dividends. And in the June free leadership call, I talked about the law of time, that when you do something for just a few minutes every day for 5 days a week, 50 weeks a year, you are so much further ahead than other people in life. So what do you do consistently? Do you spend more time on your phone? Is that what you do consistently? Do you invest in yourself? Do you invest in others? Are you so consumed by politics that you spend more time studying and thinking and researching and reading about politics that it so consumes your mind that you actually would prefer to look at that than invest in yourself? To study something that really, I'm not trying to make a political statement in this, but you really don't have a lot of input on unless you're running for office. So what gets you and what are you consistently doing? Because the dividends that you're getting in your life are directly from the things that you consistently pour into. So thinking through that, this quote comes from the book E-Myth. If you haven't read E-Myth, I would highly suggest a great book. Systems allow ordinary people to achieve extraordinary results. John Maxwell actually quotes this in one of his books. Systems allow ordinary people to achieve extraordinary results. I know I've talked about this in the past on different teachings that I've done, but I'm like obsessive, maybe obsessive compulsive, maybe a little bit too far. I mean, I probably should be diagnosed a little bit in this area, but I am so consistent and I work so hard to have a system for my mornings. I want to be able to not use any brain power before I sit down at my desk and I'm ready to work. I mean, I'll lay out my clothes the night before. I iron every single night, even if the clothes came from the cleaners. It doesn't matter. I know I have issues. But I have a system on every night in order to prepare me for the next morning so that when I wake up and I go through my morning routine, everything I do to get to sit at my desk, everything is waiting for that moment so that at that moment, my brain can begin to work and begin to think and to begin to process what I want to study and what I'm writing and what I'm learning during that time. So do you have a system, and do you have a system that's consistent in your life to get the results that you want? Number one, for success has to be consistency. You know, when you think about that, you know, the easiest quotes is just the idea. Do you want $1 million or a penny doubled for 30 days? This idea is just crazy because everybody goes, I want the $1 million. Well, it ends up being over $5 million. That's how your life is. That's the rule of time. That's the rule of consistency in your life. The more you do things over time, you get better and better and better. So my youngest daughter, she will be a JV cheerleader. She'll be playing varsity tennis this year. And she continued to try out for things. She would continue to be a part of competition teams that she wasn't really ready to be a part of. But by going and competing and even being at practices, she got more reps and more reps and more reps. We were actually talking about in our district that they don't start tennis until 9th grade. Well, there's a district just right down the road that they started in 6th grade. You can actually sign up for athletic tennis in 6th grade. We were talking about this last night and she goes, man, this school is always so good. And I said, yeah, it's because by the time you were in 9th grade and you were doing serve number 1, they had already done 5,000 serves. So they consistently invested in what they wanted to do and what they wanted to become. So the penny doubled consistently. I really could talk about this all night. I do not want to dwell in this. I want to continue to move on. Success doesn't come from what you do occasionally. It comes from what you do consistently. I'm going to say that again. Success does not come from what you do occasionally. It comes from what you do consistently. So what are you consistently doing? That's what you're getting the results of right now in life. All right. So the next number one, C for success is consistency in your life. Number 2, conflict. If you are going to have success in life, you've got to have conflict. Here's what I'm going to do. I want to give you about 30 seconds, and I want you to think about what that means. How is having conflict in your life actually a thing that leads to your success? Ready? Go. All right, 30 seconds. So, number one, if we're going to have success in our life, we've got to be consistent. We have to consistently invest and do the things that matter most. Number two, we've got to have some conflict in our life. We've got to have conflict. Well, why would you say we gotta have conflict? Who wants conflict in their life? Conflict is the thing that makes us stronger and pushes us forward. If we always live in this safe, stable environment and there's never any conflict, then we never change our thinking. We never change how we process information. We never change in order to get stronger and to get better. Conflict is what is the resistance that makes you stronger. Look at this. Without conflict, there can be no real commitment. That's what Patrick Lencioni says. He talks about it in his book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. Without conflict, there can be no real commitment. And here's what he means by this. If you were in a meeting with your organization or your team, and you are discussing things, and everybody goes, okay, we're going to all come to a decision, and no matter what you think, when we leave these doors, everybody's in agreement. Have you ever been in a meeting like that? You're going, I didn't even get a voice. I didn't even get a chance to be part of the conversation. You just told me that this is the answer, and I have to go be happy about it. What we need to have is a level of trust in our organizations that we can have pushback, that we can be able to have some conflict and go, here's the idea. Here's where we're going. Tell me why this is wrong. Tell me what I'm not seeing. Tell me how, if we don't change and we don't make some improvements to my idea, it's actually the best idea, which is never the best idea. See, the best idea is never the first idea. It's just the first idea, but it's the idea that you have to grow on. So when you have other people around you, are you willing to have conflict? Are you willing to even mine for that conflict? Going, tell us, let's get into this idea. Let's dig down deep. We're about to do this project. Let's find all the reasons that it's not perfect. It's not right. It's not great, in order that we can come up with different ideas to get to the best idea. See, we pigeonhole ourselves in these ideas that it's either A or B. It's not C, D, or E. But really, if we can get to the point in life that we can have some people around us who will push us and make us think differently, then it creates the conflict. It creates this resistance, and it makes our mind think differently. It makes our team process information differently, so we can get to the very best idea, not just the first idea. So here's what this means. I think, this is important. I don't want to miss this part. When you're in a team meeting, you've all been, I can think about different people at different times of my life that they wanted the conflict. And I think I was actually that person at different times of my life. Like, I've never been the person who's afraid of conflict. I may have liked it a little too much. That's not the goal either, okay? And it's not the goal of, hey, you're the devil's advocate. Well, I'm not sure whoever wants to be the person who works in defense of the devil. I don't think that should be your goal. It's not the guy who's a jerk in the room and just wants to be mean about things. That's not what I'm talking about here. And it's not the person who's so insecure that they have to be a contrarian about everything and tell everyone why their idea is wrong. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a healthy team, a healthy organization that comes together and says, here's an idea for a project. Let's find out what's wrong with it. Tell me my idea was okay, but it's not great. Let's get past step 1, 2, and 3 in order to get to what's best. So it's not about the devil advocate. It's not about the guy who's a jerk. And it's not about the person who just wants to be a contrarian for the sake of being a contrarian. It's more than that. It's this. It's asking the question. You know, you've sit in that room and everyone has the same question on their mind, and everybody's kind of looking around going, who's going to be the person who says it to the boss? Who's going to be the person who asked this question? And no one says it. And you know what you do? You text across the room and you go, hey, are you going to ask this? I'm not asking it. If you're not willing to have conflict, there can never be real commitment because not everyone's bought in. So asking that hard question reveals that you are willing to be part of the team and help the team be at its very best. So ask the question everybody's thinking about that no one wants to say. Say that. And then it's the last 10%. You know, one of the things I've learned with meeting with clients is people tell you stuff, but they don't tell you everything. And a lot of times we go so far and we go, okay, that's good, and that's good, and that's good. And then we get to a stopping point. But it's that last 10%, that hard conversation, that difficult conversation that no one wants to have, no one wants to say, that moves past business and into the personal, that really changes things. It changes trust, changes the organization, it changes how we interact with one another. So are you willing to do the hard things, to say that last percent? And then it's all about the trust of the team. Trust in the team. Do you put yourself in a position to trust others? And can others trust you? It goes back to John Maxwell's goals and what he defines as success, that the people closest to him love and respect him the most. And I want to be on teams like that. I want to work with organizations that have this mindset that I want to trust my team. I want to be at the very best of my team. I want to say the hard thing. I want to do the hard thing. I want to do that last 10%. So we're not just at 90%. We're at our very best. Are you willing to do that? It's hard. That's the hard part. But who said success was going to be easy? You know success is going to be hard. If you want to reach the mountaintop of your goals and your dreams and your aspirations of life, then you're going to have to do the hard thing. You're going to have to be consistent. You're going to have to be willing to have conflict. And number 3 is this. You got to be willing to have chaos. Chaos. How can you have consistency and chaos? All right, I'm going to give you a minute. We're going to go back to that. And I'm going to give you a minute to kind of chew on this. Write a few notes. Consistency, conflict, chaos. All right, 5 more seconds. All right. So I want to hear from you. A couple of people share with me. How do you think that these pieces of the puzzle come together for success?
Well, Nick, if it was something I was seeing, I would say it is like consistent. If you're being consistent in what you're doing every day, and you could take this principle back to the Bible, if I'm consistently reading scripture every single day, and I'm every day putting the same thing in me every single day so that the word of God is living in me, when conflict arises, I'm able to fall back on that consistent thing that I had to help me to build into that conflict. But then when chaos becomes from that conflict, my foundation has already been set in the consistency that I've set at the very beginning. So I'm able to overcome the chaos because of the beginning process of consistency in my walk with Christ. And that could be the same as in training and work and all the different places.
Man, Paul, that's such a great response. Just that the consistency kind of lays the foundation for how you're going to respond to all the other things. It's really good. Somebody else.
Nick, I'm going to say that with chaos, because that's the only thing I was going to talk about was nothing actually goes to plan ever. And it just with chaos, it actually teaches me how to pivot a lot.
Oh, okay,
like
good.
if I'm going one way, my heart's set on that way only, I'm just going down that path, but something gets thrown in front of me, I pivot and go the other way. It happens every single day. Every day.
Yeah. So we work so hard to live at peace. Like our bodies want to just live at like this homeostasis where everything's in balance and everything just feels right. We desire this thing, but it's not reality. I think that's what you're saying there, that living in that peace, but it isn't always reality. It's understanding that life is full of chaos every single day. Things are going to, life's just going to throw you a curveball. It's going to come at you from left field and you're going, I don't even know where this came from, but I'm in the middle of this chaotic situation. Good. All right, let's look at it. Chaos. Man, I don't know about you, but the idea that chaos brings success, and when I started writing this, I was really looking for any other C. I was looking for anything else that really could go, this really works here better than chaos. And I remember this book that I read several years ago. It's called The Chaos Imperative. And it says that we get such a routine of things that we lose our ability to be innovative. So it was talking about this guy who does leadership training in the military. Now, we need to look at the military and everything is about consistency. And this is the regiment for the day. This is what you do. And he was working to actually go to high-level officials and create chaos in the schedule, which actually brought out creativity. So let's talk about that a little bit. Chaos is the disruptor that creates innovation. Chaos is the disruptor that creates innovation for our lives. Think about that. Think about it over just 4 years ago. Think about all the innovations that came about because of COVID. It was chaotic. No one wants to go back to that, right? No one wants to go back to that. But when you look throughout history, there was chaotic situations that brought about great innovation in the world and in life, in medicine and communication. So are you willing to allow chaos into your life? Like okay, let's just be honest with each other. No one's going, yes, bring me some more chaos. Can I get an extra helping of that? No one feels like that at all, right? No one wants that. But it's in that chaos that we're forced to innovate. It's in that chaos that we have to find a new solution to old problems. When we invite a little bit of chaos in, and we actually create some chaos amongst our team, we create some unrest, we create a little bit of uncomfortable situations for people who really like comfort, they like safe, they like stable. There's something about it that makes our brains think differently. It gets us out of just being in autopilot. You know what that's like. You drive home from work and it's been 40 minutes and you don't even know how you got home. You don't remember the last 40 minutes of your drive. We do that all throughout our day. But if we could find a way to create some different environments, safe environments that threw us off our game, what would that do to our mind? What would it do to the conversations that we have on our teams? So I've done this a couple times over the last couple months. I've actually put myself in a situation that's not my routine, put myself in a situation that it's not a controlled environment, that when I come to sit at my desk, it's not the best environment for me. And in those times, actually had more creativity to me. I don't even think I'm a creative person. But in those moments, my brain was thinking about the music and the background and the people walking through. And when I did that, I began to think differently and new ideas came about. See, everything that we talk about in our success, when we talk about our goals, when we talk about the things we want in life, the big, hard, nasty dreams that are way out there that we're even afraid to say out loud, it's going to be difficult. It's going to take consistency. It's going to take conflict. It's going to take chaos in our life because we have to think differently. We need to innovate. I was meeting with a company earlier today, and we were talking about how there's highs and lows in business, and it just feels like this ebb and flow all the time, and certain months are good and certain months of the year are bad. But it's in those low months that you build the stability. It's in those top months that you have when things are chaotic. You're running 100 miles an hour. You're going from job to job to job. It's in those moments that you have to get creative. It's in those moments that you find new solutions. So how do we invite a little bit of chaos into our life? Listen, I'm not talking about going crazy. I like my consistency. I like my safe environment. I like walking in my office and knowing what to expect in the morning. But when we're with our team and we're working with other people, when I'm meeting with an organization, I work hard to make them uncomfortable at times. Not always, but at times I want to make them uncomfortable because it makes us pivot. It makes us think differently. It makes us go, I've got to find a new solution. One of the things I always work on is we got to get past A and B options. We got to get further down the list. And sometimes the only way to do that is to create a little chaos. So how do you create controlled chaos? You bring new people into the situation. Bring new people in the situation. So there's a story of a hospital outside of Chicago. On one of the wings, there was no hot water. They could not figure why there was no hot water. They brought in maintenance. That wing was not supposed to be renovated for a couple more years. They were going through all these different renovations throughout this hospital, but this was not part of the budget for this year. They brought in nurses. They asked doctors what they saw. They asked administrative staff. And there just happened to be a janitor who was walking through and overheard a boardroom conversation. And then he said, wait, there's no hot water in this wing. Why didn't no one tell us? Did anybody go downstairs and try to turn on the valve? For 6 months, a valve had been turned off and there was no hot water in this hospital wing. How crazy is that? We have to, if we want to come to new solutions, we have to bring different people into the conversation. People who are maybe unlikely to be in that situation. People that you don't even think should be in this conversation. But when you do, you get different perspectives. Listen, every one of you are great at what you do. You believe in yourself. You believe in being able to learn and to invest in yourself. I would even bet that you believe you're really good at your job. I bet you are. This is going to sound really angry. I think I'm really good at my job. I think you're really good at your job. I just don't need people just like me in my life, though. I need people who think differently than me. And if there's just a bunch of me's in the room, then we're only going to come up with one solution. We're going to come up with one answer. So how do we bring kind of the least likely suspect into the conversation to help us think differently? New people, new environments. Here's what I mean by that. Sometimes you got to get out of what's safe, this office. Sometimes you even got to get out of safe from just going to a Panera or a Starbucks. What feels comfortable with your team or by yourself? And you need to do a retreat. You need to go somewhere that feels differently, that thinks differently, that smells differently. Everything about it is different in your life. And when you start stimulating different senses in your life and in your body, you actually wake up different parts of your brain to begin to think. So different smells create different thoughts. So how can you go to different environments and put yourself in different environments as a team and to have different discussions with the least likely people to be in the discussion in order to come up with the best new answer and new perspectives? You know, we get so locked into, it has to be this way. It's always been this way. This is what we do. But then you're only going to get what you've always got. And you're at a place that you need new solutions, and new successes. So we have to get out of the comfortable. We have to get out of the easy environment. We have to get out of just thinking, well, it's just my people. We've got to this part. We've been successful in order to bring in different voices. And I think that's what I love most about my job and being able to do coaching and training with companies is I get to be a little bit of the disruptor of their normal conversations, a disruptor of what is safe. And I ask that last 10%, I push in to ask the question that no one else in the room wants to ask because they have a goal of success. So let's get there. Let's do the hard things. Let's be willing to create some consistency, an environment of trust with conflict, and a place that's safe enough that is uncomfortable and we can invite chaos in. And when we do that, we change how we think, we change how we process information in order to be at our very best and reach incredible new solutions and incredible new goals and successes in our life. But we got to be willing to do it. We got to be willing to get out of the comfortable, to do the hard, to reach the impossible. And that's what it means to really implement the 3 C's of success into our life, our leadership, and our business. Because when we do that, we get better, our team gets better, and everyone around us gets better. And remember, better is always better.